Okay, sorry I got cut off. This is again just showing the percentages. So the percent of individuals of the entire population of the world, um, generally, and then you've got your age structure. So depending on what the oldest age there is, they're usually going to put a mark on here. So France, the average age of death is around. Generally, you get some graded to like 80-ish, but then you do have some that are over 85. In India, you do have a lower lifespan, so they're going to cap it at quote above 70. That's why this is so big. It encapsulates everybody that is 70 or above. So you do have those people who are living to 100. That's why this is bigger, because instead of being it broken up into like 5-year age gaps, you've got 30. So just be cognizant of that as well, because this technically would be a lot smaller. So looking at your age structure, it can be graphed. This is called a population pyramid. So the figure on the right shows typical age structure for different countries that have different rates of growth. Look at the shape. This is definitely more of a pyramidal structure. You have a lot of people who are younger, anywhere from 0 to about 25. And then after that, it really starts to decrease as you go up. In France, however, you've got this very consistent tapering. So it's definitely kind of like a square here, and then it slowly tapers up. So this shows you have a lot of people who are living longer and longer because of health. So the slow or no growth rate equals an even distribution of ages. So it's not changing very much. We're not having this massive boom in our population in the younger generation because we have less being born in comparison to what we've got. So this is kind of just like a replacement. High growth rates is more young people than older people. That is what you see here in India with this triangle shape. Okay, make sure you can answer these questions. Go ahead and just do that in your notes, pause this video and fill that out. Moving on. Let's talk about survivorship. Survivorship is the percentage of newborn individuals in a population that can be expected to survive to a given age. So if you're talking about like, what is the survivorship between newborn to 2 years old, newborn to 6 months, newborn to 5, that's a specific survivorship. In order to predict that survivorship, demographers use usually they study a group of people that are born at the exact same time, and then they track when they die. So this also talks about our fertility rate as well. So this is simply not the number of survivals, but the number of live births. They're usually looking at this between about 15 to 45. This says 44, but usually they cap it around 45. So if you have, like in America, I think the fertility rate right now dropped to about 1.3 children. So on average, women are having 1.3 children. So you'll have 1 to 2, but then you also are getting offset by those outliers of people who simply are not having children versus those people who are having, 4, 6, 10, 20 children. That's not very typical. However, it does affect the numbers slightly. That is different than the replacement level. The replacement level is the average number of children each set of parents must have in order to replace themselves. So the number is slightly more than 2 because not all children born will survive long enough to reproduce. Here in America, that number is still pretty low, but we still do have child mortality. So in terms of people, you have 2 people generally make a baby. So the replacement rate to replace them would be having 2. So if that replacement level goes below 2, then you have a decline in your population. So talking about your fertility rates, a graph of historical fertility rates for the U.S. is shown on the next slide. So I'm going to go here. So this is what we're looking at. Just take a good glance at this. We're going to come back to this in a second. In 1972, the total fertility dropped below replacement level for the first time in U.S. history. So see this line right here? It's just slightly above 2.0. It's about 2.1. It very closely hovered that replacement rate here in mid-1930s, 1940s. Recession, world wars, that kind of stuff. World War II-ish. So then you've got this massive boom. This is the baby boom. And then this is something called the baby bust. This is when people really stopped having a lot of children in these years. It went below here. It was still very far below, but it was increasing, and it actually is over the replacement